Stop drinking all those milkshakes. Jesus Christ, John. Oh, hello, welcome to the program. I am your boy with the blaze, also known as Simon, also known as Dickhead. Welcome. This episode is brought to you by the fine people over at Where Surfshark, baby. Also, I was thinking the other day, I think I was just looking through, I was proofing the videos or whatever, and I was like, why is Surfshark called Surfshark? Because the least, if I'm surfing, literally the last thing I want to see, other than, no, I can think of nothing worse. If you're surfing, there is nothing worse than being like, oh, that is a shark, and it is coming towards me. However, don't worry, that's not... Surfshark's a VPN. It's got absolutely nothing to do with surfing or sharks or, what is going on? Surfshark.deals/blaze and use the code BLAZE for 83% off and 3 months for free. Mwah. And we'll get to the proper ad read later. Don't worry, Surfshark, I am going to cover the talking points. We're not just going to compare you to things that you don't want to run into while surfing. What happens here? Danny will write me a script. This is the script. I will read the script and act like a dickhead. Sam will sprinkle in some fine vintage memes, and that's what happens here. Let's go.
So, let's do this.
Also, you know on most channels you're watching and the people are like, smash that subscribe button. I see that most of you are not subscribed. Like 80% of the people who watch this channel are subscribers. On all my other channels, it's the other way around. Like 20% of people will be subscribed. So I'm always like, please subscribe. I feel so lonely without you. And on this channel, the vast majority of you are subscribed. So good job. And if you're not subscribed, well, you're a bit of an outlier. It's kind of sad, really, isn't it? So just tickle that subscribe button just a little, but don't tap it twice because then you'll unsubscribe, and hit the bell. The bell is useless. A little bit of insight on YouTube, right? You think, I feel like everyone knows this, but subscribing doesn't really mean subscribing. Notification bell doesn't really mean notification bell. It's just one of the many factors that YouTube takes into account of how engaged you are with the content. One of the reasons I always say watch to the end, mother, is because that is far more important than subscription. Like if there's a channel you watch, like that you're a little bit embarrassed about, so you don't subscribe to, like Nazi killings, for example, just saying, and you watch every video right through to the end, you're going to see those videos on your homepage even if you don't subscribe. And then let's say you subscribe to incredibly PC thoughts and warm-hearted kittens, but you never watch anything because you're way more into Nazi killings. Even though you subscribe, you're never going to see those videos. So what this lesson about Nazis and kittens can tell us is you must watch my videos to the end and then purchase a Certified Legend shirt. That has nothing to do with it. I would just like your money. Let's actually get on with it, because today we're talking about Pop-Sci myths. That's popular science for all of you, and everyone knows that. Black holes and badass cockroaches. There are so many misconceptions about black holes that it's really weird. Like, they're not holes, for one, right? I mean, I'm not a physicist, okay? But a black hole is basically something that's really incredibly dense. So you got like a neutron star, and that is dense. Like you take a teaspoon of that, weighs like 18,000 Empire State Buildings or something insane like that. It's actually wild. But that is not dense enough to be a black hole. And there's this point where it gets like extra dense, right? That there's so much gravity that light can't even escape. And aren't people like, yeah, no one knows what's in a black hole?
Yo, mama!
You know, maybe it leads to another dimension. Maybe it's a wormhole. It's like, no, it's just a really dense object that light can't escape from. I mean, I know, granted, my knowledge of black holes is a Pop-Sci level, but that's right? There's no sort of magical going on in a black hole. It's just really dense. Let's get on, because this introduction is already like 3 minutes long, probably longer, and I haven't even got to Danny's extended introduction, which I can see today is 4 long paragraphs. If you want to unsubscribe now, no one's going to blame you. There's a scientific theory which proposes that the majority of current scientific theories will one day be proven false by their successors. I can't help but find this slightly alarming in a way. Could it be true that we're living in a world in which everything we currently accept as scientific fact is fundamentally wrong on every level and will be superseded in years to come by new facts, which will themselves be proven wrong later down the line? I mean, things are going to be improved. Definitely, like, not a lot of scientific theories have lasted. I mean, they've lasted hundreds of years, but not thousands of years. But we've also got better at kind of the fundamentals of science, like the scientific method, and this kind of stuff has really meant that we're more keen on proving stuff rather than just guessing and being like, fact, like miasma theory, disease is caused by bad smells. Must be. There's no other explanation. Whereas now we're like, okay, well, let's just assume it's false until we can prove otherwise, which is that was a revelation in science. It's awesome. All the scientists are going to be like, Simon, it's not quite like that. I'm like, well, let's have a great discussion in the comments about it then, because that would actually be better than just the usual stuff that goes on in the comments, which is dark and scary. It's enough to make you just give up and turn to religion instead. Oh boy, is it not, Danny. At least with religion, you get to hear funny stories about burning bushes and giant fishes and zombie Really? Zombie armies? The latter pop to Ezekiel 37:1. Is that chapter 37, verse 1? Because I remember I had to say that in like one of my actually sensible channels where I try to make an effort at looking these things up. And I was like, oh God, how do you say that? And it wasn't easy to find. But I think that's it. I did go to like 7 years of religious school. Boy, howdy, that was a good time. It's not bad, but it could have done with fleshing out a bit. Might have worked better as a comic strip. Bearing that in mind, it might seem a little churlish to pour scorn over some of the more famous popular scientific theories, which are still widely accepted as fact today, even though some have been disproven or discredited for years. If we hang around for long enough, the weight of evidence that currently debunks the silliest of the theories may still be debunked in years to come. But let's do it anyway. Oh yeah, I mean, nothing like saving on posterity forever on the internet, something which will later be shown to be wrong. That will never come back to haunt me in many years. Besides, maybe the scientific theory which proposes that the majority of the current scientific theories will one day be proven false by new scientific theories. Oh my God, this is like theoryception, which will be proven false by, oh my God, I'm so confused. In which case, maybe we've already just learned about everything we're going to ever discover about the universe, and now is the perfect time for civilization to just pop the kettle on and get out the biscuits. Honestly, it feels like that's what 99% of civilization do anyway, Daddy, so good job. Number 1, cockroach apocalypse. People have been arguing for centuries over the toughest and most invincible creature to roam the planet today. It's something durans, radio something durans. It's also known as a water bear. It's this little thing which when you zoom in on it, it looks like a bear. Cockroaches actually are not that resistant to radiation. Spoiler alert! I suppose that much of the argument boils down to how exactly you measure this tenacity. I reckon that I could easily beat a badger in one of those test your strength towers that you used to find in fairgrounds. Banana honey badger, Danny. But I wouldn't necessarily want to take on one of the vicious stripy bastards in a fistfight. Do they have fists? Incidentally, I was just looking at the Wikipedia page for the test your strength machines to see if there was a more commonly used name for them. The title of the page is High Striker. Wow, who knew? Which doesn't ring a bell with me, but me neither, Danny. But I was surprised to see the opening sentence mentions how this strongman game is an attraction used in fun fairs, funerals. Funerals? Fundraisers and carnivals. Who in their right mind would bring along one of these to a funeral? Is Wikipedia just taking the piss? Danny, surely you are having me on. Let's have a look. A high striker, known as a strength tester or strongman game, I would know it as a strength tester, I think, is an attraction used at fun fairs, funerals, citation needed. Someone's just having a laugh. And it says at the top, this article needs additional citations. Yeah, look, I mean, I'd look at the citation, but there isn't one. So let's just assume that in this case, I mean, not super shockingly, Wikipedia is wrong. But I feel that one good indicator of measuring the durability of a creature is the question of which species would still be left standing or crawling in the aftermath of a nuclear war. Let's say that one day in the far future, most of the great nations of the world resolve their petty differences. Danny wrote pretty, and they're not going to be pretty after that nuclear war when the only thing left is that ugly water bear, and not the cockroaches though, and finally agree to live together under a global umbrella of peace and prosperity. But then Iceland and New Zealand suddenly take the world by surprise by engaging in a devastating nuclear war, which helps wipe out every trace of humanity, and the dogs too. Oh no, not the dogs! Smash that dislike button. It's often claimed that after every other living creature has fallen victim to the nuclear apocalypse, only cockroaches will still be crawling around the rubble and the wreckage as the sole survivors and the rightful inheritors of planet Earth. To give them credit, cockroaches do seem to be notoriously difficult to get rid of. You can chop off their heads and they'll simply consider it a mere flesh wound. And they already have history on their side. Cockroaches were crawling around the Earth at least 300 million years ago, and even predate non-bird dinosaurs. Yet they managed to avoid the mass extinction faced by those reptilian gatecrashers. The fact that cockroaches were alleged to have been witnessed thriving in the aftermath of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki have led credibility to the theory that cockroaches are completely impervious to the effects of radiation. And guess what? Science came along and all over that with actual tests. That and the depiction of the resilient Hal the Cockroach as the only creature left alive on the wasteland of the Earth in the 2008 animated classic WALL-E. Guess what? Never seen it. It's true, although I do have a kid now, so I'm going to see all these kid movies for the first time. Yay! It's true that cockroaches are more resistant to radiation than humans. What? But rumors of them flourishing in the aftermath of an atomic bomb have never been proven. And although recent tests have shown cockroaches to be about 6 times more resistant to radiation than humans, that's actually on the lower ends of radiation tolerance for insects, and certainly not enough to survive a nuclear attack. Yeah, I mean, because if you're at the epicenter of a nuclear blast, you're like, wow, if this was 6 times less powerful, I'd be fine. You wouldn't be. You'd be horribly up. The fruit fly and the flower beetle would stand more of a fighting chance. But the ultimate victor of a post-apocalyptic Earth would probably be the tardigrade. Is this radio something Durans? I think the tardigrade, the bear thing, the water bear, or the moss. This thing's got more names than Puff Daddy. Jesus Christ. These weird millimeter-long, 8-legged, water-dwelling microanimals have been identified by the journal Scientific Reports as the most badass creature on Earth, capable of surviving radiation exposure, wild temperature extremes, the vacuum of outer space, and a 30-year break from food or water. I believe they can also be frozen and then reanimated, because it will surprise absolutely no one to learn that I've made videos about these creatures in other channels, which is why I seem like such a big brain.
People who boast about their IQ are losers.
It's currently predicted that the tardigrade will only exit the stage after the sun blows up and the oceans are boiled dry, so they should have a good 6 billion years to go before they start getting worried about anything. Still, if I ever meet up with one at a funeral, I'm quietly confident that I'd wipe the floor with them on one of those test your strength towers. Yeah, but Danny, if they were blown up to your size, I have this strong feeling they'd destroy you. Not me. I'm mega strong. Big muscle. Dropping a penny from a tall building will kill a passing pedestrian. Everyone, this is so fun. People really believe these? This is the sort of thing that someone says and I'm like, that's not true. And I guess this is just, am I super knowledgeable because like I literally have loads of channels which debunk myths. I've been trying to work out exactly where this one came from. I thought it might have been inspired by some kind of monkey's paw style short story in which a young man closes his eyes and makes a wish to become filthy rich as he flicks a penny from the observation deck of the Empire State Building, only for the penny to kill his filthy rich father who was just minding his own damn business on the sidewalk below. Wow, I mean, that's quite a good story, Danny. I mean, I like it. Should turn that into a screenplay or some such. But I couldn't find any story. The best example I could come up with was an itchy and scratchy segment from The Simpsons, and I'm pretty sure the myth has been around long before that. The belief is that when a penny is dropped from an incredibly tall building, it will gain enough velocity to permanently knock out any passing head that it just happens to land on. And there's some truth to the idea that otherwise harmless objects could inflict serious injury if they fall a long distance before crashing into your head. It turns out that construction workers aren't trying to make a fashion statement with those hard hats. Yeah, but the items are a lot bigger. And also a penny is very light. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like around a skyscraper or a very tall building, you have updrafts of wind and they will carry the penny a long distance away and it'll slowly go down to the floor. Let's see if I'm correct. Welcome to Simon Spoils the Story. But a single penny is pushing the concept a little beyond the boundaries of physics. Weighing only a gram to begin with, the little flat circle would tumble and spin on the long descent as it also fights the opposing force of air resistance. So it's only ever to likely reach a terminal velocity of about 50 miles per hour and carry around a foot-pound of energy before it strikes your think tank. You'd probably be a bit annoyed if anything hit you at 50 miles an hour from a vast height, where it doesn't matter how far it's fallen from, it matters that it's 50 miles per hour. It doesn't matter if someone dropped it from space or the top of a building, that's kind of the concept of terminal velocity. And this is why we're yet to see a death certificate which lists the cause of death as fatally struck by a penny falling from a really tall building. Well, when that happens, that'll be very exciting, won't it? For more lethal results, you'd be better off shoving about 50 pennies in a sock and lobbing that off the Eiffel Tower or whatever. Damn, Danny. Don't do that. But why are we throwing money away on behaving like a dick anyway? Great question. I'd still be fascinated to learn what exactly was passing through the troubled mind whoever first came up with this theory. I don't know, they were probably just making a wish while they threw something off a building. Oh! And tell you something you don't have to make a wish for, something you can go out and get right now at an extremely good deal, is something that's absolutely nothing to do with sharks and nothing to do with surfing, unless you count surfing the internet, because today's sponsor is Surfshark VPN.
Excuse me. What the fuck?
Do you use the internet? Boy, do you. You're using it right now, aren't you? You got information you'd rather remain personal? Who doesn't? Your browsing habits, they're no one's business but yours. And let's just say everyone prefers it that way, John. Everyone prefers it that way. No one wants to Just go and clear your browsing history right now, John. Please. Just in case. Just in case, okay? Just in case. This isn't in the talking points, but opening up that incognito window and going to old Pornhub.com and looking at whatever weird stuff you're into, John, that doesn't actually hide all of that browsing information from your ISP, from advertisers, from people snooping on you, because that Chrome window is just like as if you erased your browsing history. You still browsed it, John. You still browsed it, didn't you? So use a VPN, and then your ISP won't be able to see what you're doing. Advertisers won't be able to see what you're doing. Governments, I don't think they'd be particularly interested. Anyway, we are so far off the talking points, but don't worry about it. I get the feeling this will be fine. If your name is John and you haven't immediately left this video to purchase Surfshark, I really worry about my future career in sponsorships because wow, that was the hard sell. Surfshark has something called HackLock. It searches databases for your passwords, and oh boy, that sounds bad, but it's not. Surfshark are the good guys. They'll be like, John, we found your password, Big Willie 69. We've got it. We've got it, John. But don't worry, Surfshark are like, John, your password's been leaked. Big Willie 69 is no longer secure, John. You better change it all. Also, I don't think Surfshark do this, but they'll speak, John, maybe you don't want to have that as your work password. Okay, John? Okay? Also, what else can you do? Oh yeah, Netflix, right? You're browsing on Netflix, you're like, I've seen everything. I've seen everything that interests me. Well, what happens if you just flip it over to, I don't know, where are you not? Australia? New Zealand? Democratic Republic of the Congo. One of these locations, you're like, I don't even know if they have Netflix in Democratic Republic of Congo. Okay, I have to say, it's extremely disappointing, Surfshark, that you don't have a VPN based in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. However, let's just whip through some countries that surprise me. Paraguay, North Macedonia, Moldova, Kazakhstan. Come on, we can get weirder than this. Colombia! Mwah! And many locations in the United States. Because, look, I'm just saying, as a man who lives in Europe, I very often run across things, this website's only available for Americans. And I'm like, please, activate Surfshark! Okay, look, we've talked enough. I probably haven't done all the talking points, but I think I've done well enough. I think they'll approve this. What do you need to do? 83% off and 3 months for free. There is a link in the description below. Or just use the code BLAZE. Repeat call to action. Get 83% off and 3 months for free through the link in the description below, or use my code BLAZE. Cow's milk is great for your teeth and bones. It's not, this was just marketing. Oh my god, I know all of these because I'm such a big brain. There are some things in life that you just take for granted at a very early age, and you only begin to question the sheer absurdity of it in later years. If somebody proposed for the first time today that the human race should start drinking the milk that cows produce exclusively for their calves, I'm pretty sure most people would be instinctively repulsed by such a ridiculous thought, in much the same way that we wouldn't necessarily fancy the idea of sprinkling dried chunks of hippo mucus over our cornflakes every morning. But look, if we discovered it tasted good, we'd totally be into it. Like, we eat all sorts of weird isn't Jello made out of like horse bones? And like truffles are like those weird little things that pigs dig up in the ground. They just taste wildly fantastic. The Chinese eat bird's nest. And I mean, I don't like it. I don't think I had it in a drink once, which was weird. But I mean, if it tastes good, we'll eat it. We're f***ing weird. We know this. We're weird. We're a weird species. And yeah, we've quickly adapted to the idea of consuming the milk of an entirely different species without even giving it a second thought. But is it really as good for our teeth and our bones as people make out? I should point out that I'm not an anti-milk terrorist. No one was concerned about that, Danny, but I guess take note, CIA, Danny, not a terrorist. Nesquik's banana milkshakes helped me get through my paper rounds every morning when I was a kid, and I'd still like to pour a splash of milk into my coffee and over my honey nut loops today. Magic spoon, Danny. I think Danny means magic spoon, which is all he gets in the bloody basement. And bearing in mind the mammals produce this nutrient-rich, calcium-packed white gunk as a primary source of nutrition for their young, you'd expect milk to have something going for it. And of course it has. A world without Nestle's Milky Bar is barely worth contemplating. But the idea that absorbing the calcium in regular pints of yummy cow's milk will help strengthen your teeth and bones well into your adult years has turned into a bit sour in more recent years. Yeah, because it's like, I don't know, milk's probably not the best thing for you. So yeah, what do? I just drink tons of milk. Have you considered that's why you weigh 600 pounds? No, I really do have strong bones.
I'm not fat. I'm big boned.
Stop drinking all those milkshakes. Jesus Christ. John, if you skipped ahead on the ad read, you don't get that joke. What's the lesson there? Don't skip the ad reads. and get some surf shark. For starters, your teeth have usually finished calcifying by maximum at an age of 12, so while drinking cow's milk may have some alleged dental benefits for youngsters, it's not going to do anything for your adult teeth at all. But more significant is the fact that humans aren't really best equipped to absorb cow's milk anyway, and amazingly enough, that's because we're not cows. The composition of cow's milk is very different to human milk, and it was exclusively designed to nourish a creature that's going to grow about 8 times bigger before the weaning period begins. Although opinions vary wildly on this, particularly between, say, farmers and vegans. Some theories suggest that as our bodies try to neutralize all the broken down acid from this overload of animal protein, calcium is actually leached from our bones, providing the exact opposite effect of what we've been promised. No! One particularly comprehensive study from 1997, conducted by Harvard University, followed 77,761 female nurses around for 12 whole years. God damn!
Hello, nurse.
And concluded that there was no significant difference in the number of broken bones or fractures between the nurses who barely drank milk and the nurses who were positively rolling around in the stuff. So even if drinking cow's milk may not be particularly harmful, it doesn't seem to be the mighty bone protector that some branches of popular science would have us believe. I think those branches of popular science are just people like paid for by Nestle allegedly, or like Big Milk. The final point to make is that apart from scavengers who will consume any old humans are the only mammal on the planet to carry on drinking milk long after childhood, although thankfully not from the breast of our own mothers, of course. That'd be super weird. That would look a bit weird down the pub on darts night. It would just be weird anyway. But it does perhaps suggest that we should all have just outgrown this nonsense by now and thrown away the milk bottle at round about the same time as the diaper rash cream and the Justin Bieber CDs. We should have never purchased the Justin Bieber CDs. If you're thinking right now I'm going to listen to some Justin, but don't. And instead, get Surfshark. Look, honestly, if you're listening to Justin Bieber or watching Justin Bieber videos on YouTube, honestly, you probably want to hide your internet history, because that's embarrassing. Splitting the earthworm. Biology was never my strongest point. Back in primary school, in the playgrounds in Rover, I remember that we used to have a terrifying daily problem with bloodsuckers. If anyone in my class ever spotted a worm on the ground which had a bit of red in it, the alarm would be raised. Somebody would shout out, "Look, it's a bloodsucker," and mass panic would ensue as we ran away to avoid getting all the blood drained out of our young bodies. This is not something that I had as a youngster. The weird thing is that nobody ever told me in later life that this wasn't really a scientific accurate assessment of the worm on the ground with a bit of red in it. A couple of decades later, I was lost in thought around a pub table and found myself suddenly blurting out, "Wait a minute, bloodsuckers? Were they even real?" After much confusion and bewilderment and hopeless sighing, it was eventually explained to me that they were probably just perfectly harmless bloodworms, or glycera, which are apparently a very popular snack for rainbow trout. Fascinating. Or vampire fish, as we used to call them back then. Fascinating! Another worm-based lie that I absorbed for far too many years was the story that if you split a common earthworm in two, it will regenerate into 2 completely different earthworms. Now we're onto something, because I thought this was true. I am the dum-dum. Again, I'm not sure what exactly is prompting us to cut poor wiggly worms in 2 chunks in the first place, even if they do possess Time Lord-like regenerative abilities. I would imagine that the process involves at least a little bit of wincing and cussing from their ends. The myth is not entirely without foundation. Certain types of worms, such as the planarian flatworm, can indeed regenerate into 2 or more worms after being sliced to bits. In fact, it can reform its entire body from the tiniest of little chunks, about 1/300th of its original body size. God damn, that's kind of cool.
Burn it all.
Weirdly, each new worm also retains the memories of the original. No! What? So I would imagine that this is quite handy for general productivity in the workplace. God damn! Imagine how many more YouTube channels Simon could grow if it was applied to humans. Yeah, I've never done that. Definitely haven't done that already. Ever. What? However, the planarian flatworm is only a very distant cousin of the more common earthworm, which actually has a very distinct head and tail. The earthworm still has quite a remarkable capacity to regenerate most of its body when injured, but it certainly can't regenerate a new head. In other words, if you split an earthworm in 2, the head part will most likely survive and eventually grow a new tail, but the other half will just decompose very quickly. So instead of creating 2 worms, you've just created 1 dead bit of worm and 1 probably quite grumpy, shorter worm. I have no idea about the anatomy of earthworms. Like, what's inside an earthworm? Does it have kidneys? Who knows? Does it have a brain? Let's just leave the worms alone anyway. I heard from Weird Nigel in Class 6B that they're mankind's first line of defense against bloodsuckers. Good. Black holes are like really good Dysons Finally, if you've ever watched a sci-fi movie in which the crew of a spacecraft suddenly find themselves approaching a dreaded black hole, this is usually a cue for desperate hysteria as everyone on board strives to escape the fate of being sucked into doom by the high-gravity grasp of a hole from hell. Ever since the term black hole was first coined in 1967 by American theoretical physicist John Archibald Wheeler, these mysterious regions of space have often been seen as gigantic cosmic vacuum cleaners which pull in everything approaching their vicinity with ruthless efficiency. In some works of fiction, the black holes act as wormholes to other darker dimensions, in which free will is just a memory, people eat parsnips for breakfasts, and Enron's accountants won the coveted Bookkeeping Excellence Award for 3 years running. The funny thing is that no member of the crew ever involved seems to sit down, light up a lucky strike, and suggest that maybe they just drive around it. Black holes do seem to attract a lot of negative energy from mankind, and it's not just fiction or books and films that have helped shape their bad reputation over the years. Even NASA has occasionally got on board with the idea by creating and sharing misleading footage which appears to depict an angry black hole pulling in everything that dares to cross its mighty gravitational influence. Am I not wrong in thinking it's going to be a bad idea to go near a black hole? You don't want to go near a black one. Even if you do manage to escape, it's going to be a real bad time because time goes super slow. Like the closer you get to a black hole, the slower time goes. Like that Interstellar movie, or there's that great episode of Stargate where they open the Stargate to like a planet, and then in the sky there's a black hole, and they're like, and the team who go there, they're like, oh, we're fucked. We're totally and they were, and they died. That's probably my favorite episode of Stargate SG-1. Brilliant TV show. But a black hole is just a mass like any other which exerts no special suction powers or forces that you wouldn't find in a star or planet or a moon or a closed film set overseen by Stanley Kubrick and an overeager T-boy. OGBB. Naturally formed from stellar death, they come in a variety of shapes and sizes, leading right up to the supermassive black hole, which you can find at the very core of most galaxies, including our own. But despite the slightly overexcitable name, even supermassive black holes don't appear to be spending their time just devouring everything around them, and the reassuring evidence of this is that if you're watching this video, you're probably still alive. Haven't been consumed by a black hole yet, Danny. They're going to be proved wrong at some point. It's true that nothing, not even the Dark Lord Siroth from Raid Shadow Legends, can escape the gravity of a black hole once you get past a boundary known as the event horizon. But the simple solution for the rest of the universe is simply to maintain a safe orbit around the black hole and don't go pissing about anywhere near the bloody event horizon. And whilst we're at it, don't go sticking your tongue inside the nozzle of a vacuum cleaner either. Pro tip! One of the best description of a black hole is that it's more like a Venus flytrap than a top-of-the-range Dyson. Instead, but also, even if it was like a top-of-the-range Dyson, and you enter a room and there's a Dyson vacuum cleaner in there, and you know it can destroy you, you just be like, can someone turn that Dyson off? No, it can't be turned. Okay, well, let's just close this door and not go in there again. Problem solved. You're welcome, physicists. Instead of actively seeking new victims, it sort of just lazily sits there and waits for some idiot to trigger the trap, desperately hoping this time it won't be just another kid pissing about with a pencil. The difference... The Venus flytraps, the difference is that black holes aren't really interested in devouring anything in the first place. The vast majority of matter that drifts past the event horizon will just get spat out again, and eventually help to fuel the formation of brand new stars, which, without wanting to finish on a morbid note, I suppose is what each and every one of us is destined to do, really, if science is to be trusted on any level. Brilliant. Thanks, Danny. So my atoms are eventually going to form part of a new star. Great. But after we've already established, science is debatable on any level. God damn! Maybe the best idea is to forget about science and religion and just concentrate on seizing the day ahead without worrying too much about tomorrow. Oh, Danny, you Eckhart Tolle, the power of now. Oh, that book, Jesus. Maybe the best idea is to leave that to the flower beetles and the tardigrades. It's more their problem anyway. This has been an episode of Business Blaze. I've been your boy, the Blaze Simon. My computer's just told me that I'm running out of disk space. So let's make this exit brief. Get Surfshark, get some merch, purchase merch.co, and thank you for watching. Dickhead.